So I'm now in Painter 2022, and I'm going to be creating this little fantasy forest image. It should go pretty quick now that we've got the preliminary work finished. So I'm going to try to get through it so it's still recognizable and that you can follow along pretty easy. So I'll navigate to menus pretty much instead of going to back to keyboard shortcuts, but keyboard shortcuts could definitely be an option if I needed to do that. I'm leaving the brush selector open, move these over just a little bit. Got my papers up here, my image hose, my patterns, and my general brush controls, which I will use now and then. Get those out of the way, keep them off to the side where I can get to them pretty easy. This is HD, so 1920 by 1080. It's got just a light gray background, which is the default, and it comes with a new layer. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start doing it. What I'm going to do first thing is I want to create kind of a sunset or a sunny day looking layer. So I'm going to change the color of the background a little more desaturated. I don't need anything particularly saturated. I just want kind of a nice, maybe evening or getting toward maybe just a foresty transition. So I've got my main color set to this lighter blue and my background color set to this greenish color. I'm going to go ahead and use the interactive gradient to make this work, just because I like being able to adjust it, and that's exactly the opposite of what I want. So I will go back around like this, and this is really actually honestly too light, so I'm going to adjust the colors a little bit more. I want them a little lighter. And let's make sure this works now. You can't see the green at all, so maybe I better bring that down just a little bit. And the blue just a little bit. It's probably lighten them as I need to as I'm going, so let's see what it goes. So I'm trying to figure out which is the main color and which is the background color. Let me click out of that, and I just will, no, I don't want to commit it. So let me try making it again. I probably want the blue a little bit darker. And I'm going to make the green maybe a little bit bluer. It's personal choice, so whatever you want to do is going to be fine. So I'll select the interactive gradient again. And it's sure not giving me as much differentiation as I thought it would. Let me see if a dramatic change makes any difference. Okay, so what have I got going on here? Opacity, merge mode, default. Style is linear. Let me load a preset just to... Okay, let me go back. Okay, I must have been on the wrong gradient, because this should be happening. It doesn't like it when it's getting up in that green very much. Maybe I've got the main color still active. Well, let's go here, and I'm going to go back to preset. Cancel out of this. Preset is main to additional color and main to transparent. Shadow light. I could use one of these. I really want to use my own though, so let me try it again. There's always something, isn't there? Always something. So my main color will be a little bit darker. And now let's try it. So style preset. I'm going to try, well, let's just try it. Not going to express any paint or anything, so. Oh dear, reset. Okay, we'll try this again. I honestly don't know why it's doing this to me. You just try with a regular gradient. No. Let's come back. And now let's try with the interactive gradient again. It's probably the simplest thing, and I'm just not smart enough to do it. So it's going dark to light, which that would work, but it's not exactly what I want. Actually, this preset's going to work pretty good, so I'm using the shadow light preset. I don't really want any of the dark in here, so put this off and this down. And that's going to be fine. I don't really want any paint expression in it, so I'm just going to save changes to this. Click OK and apply that. Now I'm going to need a few copies of this, so I'm going to make a few copies. Now I'm just using the keyboards because that's what I did at the beginning. So I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to need all these, but I just want to go ahead and have drop one onto the background, and then I'm going to go up and work underneath this one for a minute. So here, and I'll create a new layer. And what I'm going to do is just to get some nice kind of smooth background shapes, I'm going to use pen tool. So I'm just going to click. So this is going to give me a nice kind of rolling hill thing. So I've got that in. I probably could adjust it, make it not quite as rolling, so lower this one a little bit, maybe lower this down. I don't want to make it terribly, I want it to be higher than lower because I'm going to have several more layers, but I'm going to bring them forward. And so I guess I do want this kind of up a little bit higher. The shape of this doesn't matter. Whatever you want it to be is going to be fine. So that's kind of a nice shape. Then I'm going to come up here and go to Shapes, and I'm going to convert it to a selection. So now I got a nice selection going over the top of this. So let's pick a good main color. Make sure the layer is active. Main color that's kind of, green that we want for the background. Get to my main colors. I'll use the temporal color wheel, so I can pick something that probably, actually I'm going to go a little darker than I think I need to. And the reason being is that I'm going to be able to, I didn't want to fill it with paper. I wanted to fill it with, or clone source, current color. So here's the current color for the background. And what I'm going to ultimately do is be putting this over to colorize that. But that's a good start for what I want to do. I will deselect it because I don't need that very much anymore. And now I'm going to use, let's see, linear pressure, bearing, linear pressure. I'm going to paint sorry, just picking. I'm going to paint the trees in the background here. So image hose, I want to pick the tree nozzle, and I want to probably space this, but this will be a test run. So I want that layer underneath, new layer. I want the foreground color to be the background right now. And so these are pretty simple leaves right now. I want the trees. Let me get this out of the way. So there's my trees. Now see, I don't want them to twist like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the general brush controls, and I want to go into the angle, and let me see what I can do here. Figure out the angle. Let's try it again. 90 degrees. No, I want this to be probably direction. Maybe I want it to be none. So let me try this none right now. Okay, that's obviously incorrect. So let's take the back down to 0, and that's what I want. So backspace this layer. So I want the trees to come out pretty much vertical to each other. We can have a little bit of angle jitter, but I don't want it to look like they're blowing over. So backspace this out. Let's see what the angle jitter looks like. Well, there's no expression, so let me change this to random. This will give me some angle jitter. Too much. That looks like a burned forest. So let me move the angle jitter way back down here. That's still too much. Want the angle at 0. Well, that is not going to do it for me. So let me see what pressure does. Let's just go back to none. And we won't have a lot of angle jitter, I guess. Backspace that to clear it off. I don't want them to squeeze, so I'm going to have them up there. That's going to be fine. I want the size to be generally the same. So I don't mind if there's a little bit of variation, and I'll set that to random. So that's not too bad. I'm going to go, I think, with 75%. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so now I'm going to paint the background trees on here. What I'm going to do first, though, is I'm going to save this brush in case I want to come back and use it again. So I'm going to come up and I'm going to go Brushes, Save Variant, and I'm just going to call this Don's Tree Brush. Believe me when I say I'm the least creative person I know. Now you've seen it using my brushes. So here we got Don's Tree Brush, a blank background. Let me move this out of the way just a little bit. And I want it to paint with this background color. So the additional color, I can't ever remember which one I want to use. This is the right way. So see, I'm getting the trees really the same color in the background as the I want them to be the same kind of as that background color. Now I don't mind if they don't quite go right, but this is going to be my background layer of trees now. I probably should space them a little more just because they start filling in an awful lot. So let me check the spacing here. That's probably actually better. So I'm going to backspace this layer again and paint these. And if I want, I can tap in a few extras, but I do want them to be kind of a little bit sparse in the far back. And I think that'll be pretty good. I'll go with that. Okay, now I'm going to create another layer. And this one's going to be above this tree layer. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to load another nozzle. I can get rid of this selection. Actually, what I'm going to do to make this work a little faster is show you a little trick that I'll sometimes use. So I'm on a new layer. I'm above the trees. Get out of here. And I'm going to come in here and draw me a bunch of tree tops here. So Shift and you don't have to do this, but sometimes, again, if you can speed things up, you should be thinking that way. So that is going to be my leaves initially. So I want to go back to my main menu and pick a brush. Now these should be both identical, but I'm just going to use this paint bucket tool and fill this. So Control D. And there's my very, very back layer. But now let's make these look a little bit better. So I'm going to take, let's see, spray pressure random, spray pressure. I'm going to try this one first. Let me get the leaf nozzle. And I'm going to make a new layer above this one. Right now, keep everything on layers in case I need to fix something. So here's currently what's going on. And I need to adjust this, of course. Let's make the size, just try the size different. And we'll make the minimum size almost all the way up. And we'll set it to random here. Too small. That's really too big for in the background. But I think for what I'm doing here, that's going to be okay. And this is, let me zoom in, this is one of the advantages of using multiple leaves and things that in your image hose are already really randomly all over the place. You can get away with a lot better. You don't have to really monkey around with your brushes too much. So that's probably appropriate. That's probably a little better. Okay, so let me backspace this. Now what I'm going to do on this layer is additional color. I'm going to take this down to what I've got as the background color and fill this layer in. Because this is far in the background, I don't have to do a lot of tweaking inside these shapes I've created, because they're going to look, you're not going to see a lot of this detail once I get done with this anyway. So go ahead and paint these in. You know, paint them a little random. You don't have to, you know, follow the squares everywhere. That's just a quick way of filling these background leaves in, which aren't going to need a ton of color in the first place. So get these in. I'm actually working at 150%. It's just this spray pressure nozzle file. You know, I have a few leaves coming, like either tiny branches are holding them down there, or, you know, maybe they're on one of these lower, you know, maybe they're growing on one of the lower branches down here. You can leave a few sky holes here and there if you want. I think the key is being a bit more random. You don't want to let any of your branches be stumps. So that's why, you know, cover that down there. Okay, so quickly, and now this is pretty much, you know, you're not going to see the tops of these trees very much anyway when we're finished doing this. So you can see a little bit of repetition here and there in the branches. If it bothers you, you can either erase it or throw a few leaves on it. It's your happy trees. Literally, these are your happy trees. You can do whatever you want. So let's zoom out, tabs, so you can see the whole screen. So there's really kind of the first step of this process, which is creating this background layer of leaves. So in the next step, I'm going to put in the grass in the background there, and then we'll start working on the next layer forward. We're going to have probably 3, maybe 4 at the most layers, and we're going to pretty much cover everything so it will look like the deep dark woods. Lions, tigers, and bears, oh my.